All right, metalheads. Hey, welcome back to Metal Massacre. I am your czar of Nar, Dustin Peters, alongside the sipping coffee man himself, Lucian Kohlscheen. And so I know you are ready for. We don't flip a coin. We don't pick.
No.
We don't choose. We just hit record, and one of us stares in the camera and goes, "What's up? Welcome to Who Will Break First?" No, exciting show for you guys today. We have the band SOM, SOM, all capitals. They're East Coast based. They're mostly instrumental. We try again, bring a variety of bands on the show for you guys, but that's a great conversation for later. I have some other bands that we can reference to give you guys an idea of it. And also, I just think that instrumental or like post rock, like post hardcore metal, like that whole genre is honestly, there's nothing. It's kind of weird to say. It's like there's nothing like super like, oh, that's exactly when you hear it, but also you know exactly when you hear it. Like,
Yeah, it's very specific for sure.
it's like the old saying. It's like I don't exactly know what porn is, but I know it when I see it. Okay?
Yeah.
If it's drawing the line, then you know you're in. But yeah, no, very excited to talk with those guys today. Well, when we did. But first of all, buddy, how are you?
I'm sleepy.
Yeah, I was looking at you. We're all on everything's on YouTube now, by the way, if you're just an audio listener, so you can see our bright and early. It feels we just had daylight savings, so it's like feels like 8 in the morning, and that's usually not the metal hour.
No.
I think 8 a.m. is probably the least metal hour
of all time. Yeah. No, yeah. I'm just a little tired. It's been a long week. Started a new job this week and early morning shift, so I'm just kind of like dragging these last couple of days, but I got a couple of days off, so I get to recharge and get back to it. But no, I'm really excited for the SOM interview. I think you guys will really like it. Very artistic fellows, I'll say that. They were very about the process and very, it's good. They gave us a lot of detail as far as what the band's doing and what their goals are, and it was cool. You don't really get interviews like this a lot. I think we've said this to a couple of our guests before where we're like, oh my God, you're such a good guest. Thank you for not being a dead fish, but these guys were really intuitive with how they spoke about their music. And I appreciate that, and getting to kind of hear the more technical side of decision-making and why they do the things they do was pretty interesting. So I'm excited for you guys to kind of dig into that today. And man, I'm also excited because we have a whole bunch of shit in the can for you for the rest of this season, and we have stuff we're booking for the next season. So it's like we're full steam ahead at this point.
Yeah, no slowing down on any of the interviews like we've mentioned. Again, we do want to keep mentioning, while it's still kind of like a shock to the system, that we've always kind of, at the very first season, we had like an every other release week, but we were building our resume. We were building up some of our repertoire with like people within the industry. Because again, we love pulling the curtain back with you guys and just like being very blatant. Maybe it'll help someone that's doing their own podcasting or something like that. But like, it's one of those things where you put your best foot forward and then someone does the show. And then when you put an email out, someone's like, oh, fuck, that band did the show. Well, I need to be on there. And so we did it in every other release schedule, but now we're going to almost 3 in a row sometimes, and then 1 week off.
Yeah.
And that 1 week off, again, we're loading you with a whole bunch of other content that is either adjacent to what we do or completely, just something that's spewing out of my own brain with gaming news and game pod and stuff like that. So Thoughts and Shots is on the channel. If you have no idea what that is, I highly suggest you just go listen to it. Last week, they were watching 80s movies, and they do the thing where it's like, hey, the video is paused at exactly 001 second. So if you're not trying to intently pay attention to this movie, start it on your TV, throw on the podcast, and then walk around your house, do whatever the hell you're doing, and then come back and watch it with them if you want. So I highly suggest go and listen to them. But all of that is to say again that, yeah, we have a bunch of cool shit planned. We have a bunch of music stuff for Molten planned. We still want to bring the band on the show and let them make fun of us, because that way we can finally take the piss, as the British like to say, as they've said. But I do have a small list of things to get towards SOM in specific, because they are adjacent to something that was turned on to me. The band Caspian. I believe it's been long enough removed that I should have it in front of me, but one of their members, I want to say the guitar player in SOM, was also in Caspian, and Caspian is the singer of my other band, Chris, his favorite band like of all time. He's a huge post rock guy, and so I know I can trust him when he's because that's the world that he lives in. And
Right.
he basically forced all of us who were at practice one time. He's like, Caspian's coming to the waiting room, our local like theater club, and he was like, we're going. I'm going. I'm going to be mad at you if you don't go, because then if you don't go and you don't like it, you don't understand me.
No, God.
Like,
The
okay,
stakes are high.
yeah. So we went, and it blew my fucking mind. And I think I've brought up that specific show on this show, like before in a previous episode. They brought like an Irish band with them, and they were both very instrumental, like very few words. And it was basically just to address the crowd to be like, you're still out there. And then they went back to doing their thing. And instrumental work is, first of all, I mean, it's a tough path to go down, because I think for two reasons. One, because I half the appeal of metal music to me is the heaviness or the riffs, and then the yelling, the gurgling, the growling, the singing. That's what makes it different, because almost everything else usually has singing, and then metal's the one outlier where it's screaming or growling or whatever it might be, and that's what gives it edge. Then to do instrumentals only, like, I feel like that's not only a tough road to go down, no matter how like heavy metal you are or aren't. It's just obviously like it shows a high craft of a musicianship. You have to be a great instrumentalist to do that and to capture people's attention.
Oh, for
and
sure.
SOM is something that I was turned on to because of our like getting this down our email pipeline. But then as soon as I saw the name Caspian in it, I would probably booked him anyways. But then I was like, no, these guys are like consummate professionals, and I know exactly what they're about. So I can't recommend this band enough. It's not very like the newer style of stuff like Polyphia, the guy with the tappy guitars we've rented to before. That's instrumental, and that's kind of post rock. But if that's where your head's going, it's not that. Which some people love them, some people hate them. That's not up to me. Tim Henson seems like a pretty down to earth dude, so don't shit on him too hard. But there's a bunch of really good bands that I would try and point you guys to, which would basically be the topic for what we're going to do for the intro for this. If you like SOM and you like Caspian, or you haven't heard them, there's a band called Dysrhythmia. They're out of Philly. They are obviously people that probably studied like MIT level music and then decided to take you on a sonic journey instead. Really, really close in style to me as to how SOM sounds. So if you like any of this, where I'm trying to just put you guys in a wheelhouse along with the bands we've mentioned, there's a Chicago-based band called Pelican. They've been around since for fucking ever. And I had to do some research on these because, again, like I do like the grittier, heavier styles of metal and not as much post-rock all the time. But Pelican, I've heard the name before. Like I said, Chicago-based, heavy fucking riffs. Omaha-based people know it reminds me a lot of like before the band Beast Eagle, before they got their singer, who's escalated them to a level which is even better. But Omaha folks should have heard of Beast Eagle by now, and if you haven't, you're fucking around. But they remind me a lot of them, flannel wearing, real heavy sludgy doom riffs sometimes, but obviously masterful playing. And then the last one, because everybody's aware of like Animals as Leaders with Tosin, who usually is also kind of in that same Polyphia vein. But so trying to give you guys like, hey, let's deep dive a little bit. The last one I really like to bring up is called Scale the Summit. And they've been around for the better part. I think they're going on 22 years now, and a lot more jazzy. That's like, it's the less metal-ish, but it's definitely instrumental prog metal. It goes straight forward. So again, if you have been looking for something different, if you're a fan of the show, because like us, you love headbanging heavy metal, but you're looking for maybe something you can just throw on a drive, or something where like your coworkers would be like, turn that screamo off. Then these are some bands I would directly point you in their direction, because they're really, really good instrumental bands. They're really good post-hardcore, post-rock, that kind of really big sonic sounds, just something that makes you feel like you're at an experience. And like seeing it live was definitely one of the cooler things. And I think that SOM entirely embodies that same thing as far as I've been able to gather from watching their live performances and all of that. But that's all to say that I was very excited to. Is this our first like instrumental only band on this show? I think
only, yeah, I think maybe
because there's ones that take heavy elements out of it, but like I think there's a couple sing-songy things in a couple of these songs. But I'm pretty sure it's very instrument heavy. And I know that it has been for their band for a long time. So if they're adding in vocals, that's something relatively new. But we should say that the album comes out this Friday, as far as release goes. It's Friday the 14th, March 14th, 2025. The entire album will be available then for some. I highly recommend at least giving a track or two. Check out the singles, something like that. But yeah, these guys are super down to earth, really cool dudes.
Yeah, pretty chill.
I'd hope that they come our way. I'd go see them. I'll give them that stamp.
Yeah, I bet they'd put a really good show on. I'd totally go see them too. They seem really nice, and honestly, like, I don't know, man. Here's my thing with interviews is like you could be the best musician in the world, but if you suck at interviews or if you're a jerk off, then like I don't care. And like,
yeah,
it's such a boner killer to like get a band in here and you're like, oh, I'm so excited for this, and then they're just like, oh yeah.
Yep.
And you're like, bro, like we're making an entertainment show together. Like these guys really, they had their A game on, and they came to have fun and really kind of dig deep into the band. And I think that's always kind of what you're looking for with interviews is like, give me the why. You know, I can hear the how all I want, and that's fine, but I really want to know the why behind some stuff. And they definitely gave us that why. So no, they were great guests. I loved it.
And really, there's not too much else to say about it without what hasn't already been said in the interview, so I don't want to step on it. Again, we will say, we just wanted to pop in as we always do, update with you guys where we're at in real time, let you know that we've got some events planned. We're going to continue that every third week, every off week, giving you extra content. So again, if you're newer to the channel and then you're under like, what the hell is this? Here's your one of your last warnings.
Yeah.
you know what we're doing and you know why we're doing it again. And we'll explain usually at the top of each one of those shows, but we're digging deep into our past from our older show and bringing you some like older episodes of where we first started. And so you can see our progress, but also some metal adjacent stuff we did in our old show before we started Metal Massacre like we have now. A gaming content show, because there's almost every person we've talked to on this show was a gamer or a gamer adjacent, and it's what I do. So it was able to be an easy direct right down there. And then we talk about thoughts and shots, and I would just give them a shot to figure out exactly what you are, pun intended, going to be getting from them. I didn't realize I did that, but yeah, SOM, the band, SOM, they've been touring extensively. So like, it doesn't seem like they're going to knock off that routine. They're older dudes. They put on they're, like I said, they're professionals. They've been around the industry for a long time, and this is not their first band, any of them. This is second or third projects or their individual project after older things that they've done. So I believe this is like their third album as I'm looking at it. Yeah. And there's EPs. And so that make the modern format makes it a little more difficult to discern, but I think this is their third album. That was the other band. I know my ADD brain's going crazy, but yeah, it was it was Constance. That was the other band that I've heard of before. It was like, oh yeah, and it features members from them as well. But we're gonna let you get into the interview so we don't step on any more details. Again, look out for everything we're going to do. Season's almost over. We only got 2 or 3 more. So if you want to write anything in, if you'd like to email the show or be a part of it before we take that little hiatus, about like usually about a month, and we come back fresh with the new things in the can. Now would be that time. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Spotify now even. You can DM us directly if you find our socials personally or on the page. There's no shortage of ways to reach us. And as always, you can support us with the Patreon, with our Discord, or hey, if you catch us on Twitch with a couple bits or donations, and you can find all of that just by searching Metal Massacre, patreon.com/Metal Massacre, discord.gg/Metal Massacre. It goes on and on. We made it so you can't miss it.
I want to try something real quick before we go to our interview. Hold on.
Okay.
On the side here, there's background music for StreamYard, and I want to play Feeding the Ducks, and I want to hear what it sounds like. So we're gonna listen to Feeding the Ducks real quick. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, oh, dude, this is nice. We should just run this really low. Hold on, we can do some live editing. What if I just bring it nice and it's too low?
Yeah, too low. There we go. That's the sweet spot.
Just leave this during the opening segments from now on.
Oh yeah,
I'm out here feeding the ducks. Just feeding the ducks.
Well, guys, we're gonna get out of here as we feed the ducks. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this interview with SOM.
It's nice.
What is going on, metalheads? You're listening to another episode of Metal Massacre, the only podcast that is as brutal as it claims to be. I'm Lucian, the weirdo with a beardo. As always, my partner in crime, Dustin, the czar of Nar, here with two guys. We got Will and Mike from SOM. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty well. Yeah. How you doing, Mike? Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, that's a loaded question these days.
I know. I'm
life in the world, but
we're all people. We all got stuff going on, and it is kind of a loaded question. So I'm gonna kick it over to Dustin. I think you can intro this better than I can.
Sure. I have one job and I do it okay. No, so you guys are, you say you guys are based out of like SoCal or is that still accurate or at all? Because they sent us some PR stuff and I was like, I feel like they're all over the place and they're on a German label. Let's get to know them a little.
Yeah,
bit.
our story is a little bit confusing because we've kind of been all over the place. I actually live in Connecticut, so
sick.
And that's where we record and practice for the most part.
When they said Eastern time zone, I was like, I don't think that's right. So yeah, if you guys are all over the board, and then you record, and that's pretty common nowadays, I would suppose. In the virtual age, you can get almost anything done by sending tracks back and forth. It makes it easy, makes it difficult at the same time. But shit, to say at the same time, as we're recording this, we're a little bit ahead, but just so we can get down to some brass tacks and have something to just go off of. The new album should be coming out the 14th of March, and by the time that this is released, you guys will have been coming back from a bit of a tour with it, hitting out a bunch of dates. You'll be all over. It looks like you guys are going Cambridge, Montreal, like all over the place, and then back through the U.S. So as we're getting into trying to release your third full length, I'd like to be able to ask you about the tour, but I wanted to say instead, I guess, what is something that you guys are looking most forward to being able to display this new music? And whichever one of you wants to start is fine with me. Flip a coin.
I'm just psyched to play these songs live. It's been, we basically took last year off to finish up the record. So we didn't play any shows last year. So I'm really excited to just get back in a room with my guys, play a little bit, take it in the van and get out there and play shows every night.
How long have you had these songs? Like when did you write them and perfect them as opposed to just getting them recorded then?
You want to jump in, Mike? Yeah, I mean, sure. They've been kicking around for a couple of years now. Yeah. We started recording them probably like an entire year previously, sometime in 23, I guess. Yeah. And with our drummer Duncan, who we left the band about midway through 2023, halfway through the sort of recording process. Nothing bad, no bad blood. Like we're still very dear friends, great guy. Just always have different things going on in our lives and makes sense.
Yeah.
So at that point, yeah, and he had already not been able to do a few of the tours that we had done. So we had actually been kind of working as a 4-piece for like a year or a year and a half at that point. We did like 2 or 3 tours as a 4-piece with Justin on drums. Justin was originally playing bass. So we kind of, and Will moved over to bass. So we kind of got into a pretty good rhythm actually with like being that, that format of the band. But we still like started recording as a 5-piece. And then once Duncan left, we kind of just put everything on pause for a second, reevaluated. Justin wanted to play drums on the record since he'd be playing, drums from then on, and Will, So we sort of tried to figure all of that stuff out and re-recorded a lot of it. So we recorded a big chunk of the record twice, actually.
Feel your pain, man.
All that to say,
But like
ultimately it was a pain in the ass while it was happening, but like ultimately I feel like we spent a lot more time kind of thinking through each part and transition, and like, it gave us a lot more time to sort of refine the album in a way that I don't think it would have been if we didn't take that beat.
Well,
So, I think ultimately it's a better record as a result.
I'm glad to hear that, man. Because, like I said, I've been a fan of you guys for a while, and actually, the singer in one of my bands, not Lucian. Lucian's the singer in one of them, but the other one that like we have, SOM is actually. I told him he's a big Caspian guy, so obviously there's the tie. My friend Chris, he was like, dude, SOM rules. You got to tell me as soon as you get him on the air, I'm going to listen. So he was really excited, and something I also was like, well, do you got any questions for him? You can do my job for me.
Yeah, make it easier for you.
So what he was really wondering too is because something he actually probably already touched on was that he said this album, from the few songs that you already have out available as of when we're recording, they do have, I don't want to say a different style, because you guys have a great sound, very atmospheric, very big. I'm sure as everyone tells you, it's defined. But what he was asking was, he's like, this sounds a little brighter, maybe happier, could be a word. I'm not exactly sure, but when he was listening to those first few songs, the really only thing from a big fan that he wanted to ask was, were we in a different spot when we were writing this? And I think that maybe obviously having to like change members, and I want to do the drums because I'm going to be drumming, like makes sense. But when it comes to the writing process, because this album, by the way, congrats, sounds great from everything I have so far. I mean that wholeheartedly. I love it. In a different space, it sounds a little brighter. Is there anything to that? Have you been changing a little process, or is it just kind of how the pieces fell?
I mean, I think one of the things that happened with this one is like we're more aware of our sound now. And I feel like about halfway through this process, like we were saying, we took a beat to think things through, around that time, maybe a little bit further on. I remember there was a moment where Joel was tracking guitars, and we just were having this conversation about how, it's good to have the doom and gloom, and we can get as dark and heavy as we want. But in every song, we should try to at least have some sort of uplift or some kind of hopeful moment. If that's, a single note, a single phrase from the lyrics, just something that kind of ticks it toward positivity.
Yeah.
Because, the world is dark enough. And obviously, we live in that same world too. But, there's something about finding camaraderie with other people. And it's like, okay, we can get through this. We can do this together. And I feel like we tried to bake that into the pie this time in a way that we were much more thoughtful of than we had been in the past. Like it existed in the past, but this time we were like, you got to give them a little bit of sweetness,
Yeah, you need that silver lining.
Yeah, we do too.
The doom and gloom for sure. Like, I appreciate that for sure. Because, I mean, dude, music aside, you're right. The world can be such a dark place, and just to have that one brief moment where it peeks through, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In music, it's a beautiful thing to kind of balance that between the two. I guess I don't want to say aesthetics, but between the two sounds. I did notice Metal Injection called you guys Doom Pop, and as I'm listening, I'm like, oh my god, this is Doom Pop. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, and it really feels like, you've got the chord progressions and the tone that does sound a little doomier, but the vocal styles, it's this nice, this weird. I don't want to say weird. I say weird because it's unexpected, I think. When you listen, I've listened to a lot of music, and especially with this show, we get tossed a lot of bands. And I've noticed the one thing that kind of is the glue that holds bands together is finding that aesthetic and finding that journey and that message and what kind of sound you want to have. It's always interesting to me to see the change. Because, you start with one thing, and then 3-4 albums later, you're going to be something completely different, whether you want to be or not. I think that's just the natural evolution of being in a band. When you started, did you have a clear-cut picture of where you wanted to go, or was this something that kind of developed as you guys kept continuing?
I think there was a goal initially, and honestly, it was to just like get in a room with my friends and write really heavy music.
Yeah.
I hadn't gotten to do that in a few years. Like I didn't have a band. I was like, running in front of house for Mike's band. And I just wanted to get back to like the roots of what got me excited about playing guitar when I was 15.
Yeah.
And then I think a couple years in, Mike and Joel were coming out on a tour with us. And I feel like that, and, Mike can speak to that when that happened, but I feel like that kind of opened things up. And then again, we were talking about as we reconfigured as a 4-piece, there's just like this continued focus, and we're able to kind of find what we're trying to do. And we think about it. I try to not think about it too much, because then you can kind of get lost in it. But definitely like this moment where we're done with the record and we get to do interviews and talk through stuff, and, you know, we'll be talking about it in the van too. I feel like that's the moment where it's like, okay, now I know what we were for this piece, and that'll give me some insight into what comes next, if we're lucky to find the next, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because some bands do end up repeating themselves a lot, and that's okay too. But like, part of what makes this fun is like, okay, what are we going to do after this?
Well, yeah, and if anything, it kind of harkens back to what you were saying with how you guys had to re-record, and you're almost grateful for that. Like, that hindsight is such a powerful thing, and
Totally.
it can be a really good tool to utilize when you're looking forward. So, like, there's plenty of times I would have wished that I could have gotten a second chance to re-record something, or go back again and, okay, I like what I did here, but for me personally, when I do vocals, I'm like, I'm never gonna 100% like what I'm doing, and it's just because I'm so picky on myself. But you go back and go, I just put a low end over here, would have sounded so much more full. And so I think it's good that you guys had that opportunity to go back and kind of digest things and look at everything you were doing. And who knows, that might be something you guys end up doing in the future.
God, I hope not.
I know. You don't have to, but
no, in hindsight, it's like a really cool way to make a record. But
yeah,
in the process, it was tough, man.
Grueling, I'm imagining.
Like going through and doing drums again, and then like which guitars that we already did are still going to work, which ones aren't tight enough. Do we have to edit stuff? Do we have to like change stuff? Or it was a lot.
Oh man, I could only imagine, dude. Well, Mike, I do want to ask you because it does play right into the idea of, well, like he was saying, like things can change, and especially when you have the like 2 or 3 times to take a shot at recording something, but live, I'm imagining with your sound is something that you could play with a little bit. I guess what I'm asking is, it seems like your guys' live show could be something where, not to get way off base or like do like a jam track, but you could take some liberty with some of those areas and like how you play with, because it's so big and ethereal and wide. Live, do you try and stick boop, 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 note to note, or do we have a little fun with the solos and have a little fun with the atmosphere sometimes?
At least for me, I mean, that has actually been with some of the songs, even on our previous releases, like those moments of like, damn, I wish I had played that differently, or I wish that I'd done this part a little differently. Then that's just what becomes what I end up playing live. I'm like, so it's like, all right, like this is the part that I kind of wanted to play, or like that I realized I should have played, on the record, and now that's kind of how I do it live, and that's kind of part of the fun that makes the live experience its own thing, kind of unique.
Yeah,
and also fun for us because the songs kind of like evolve over time. We're not like a jam band, so we're not the kind of band that just turns a song into like some sort of 10-minute like freeform thing, but like, so we stick to the grid, and like the song is the song structurally, but like within that, there's definitely like, it's fun to kind of see how certain things maybe like feel better live than they would on the record, or maybe like just change up a part a little bit, give a little extra like whatever juice, a little extra flourish.
Your sound is massive, so like it's something you can play with. No, go ahead, please.
I was just saying, that really got me excited because I'm a collector. I'm a huge collector of music and experiences, and I just love collecting things. And I love when I go to a show and they play a different solo, and you're like, I was at the show where they played this solo instead. Like, so I can only imagine from like a fanatical fan point of view that just loves what you're doing, how special that must be to go to a show and hear like some slight variation on a solo, or maybe just a different chord progression to mix something. You know what I mean? Like that in itself is kind of a fun little idea. So,
well, I'm curious, Mike, actually, because Mike came into the band after we had already done the first record. And so it's kind of a cool thing because Mike kind of got to write his own parts for the first record after the fact. So everything we play from the first record live, Mike's kind of like, because those parts were sort of like, they started on a synth, but then Mike totally made them his own. And I think that like, I mean, I'd be curious for you to speak to this, how when you came in, how that helped you sort of develop your sound as you had this sort of kind of half-finished palette, and then you got to kind of define it like fully,
Yeah, it was a fun sort of project and a fun challenge rather than to try to just like emulate a bunch of synth parts. I was like, well, at this point, if I'm in the band, like I might as well make this my own and, add. So, I wrote new parts to a lot of that, and the songs now have a different, life because of that, which is kind of cool. And you can kind of hear that, like we did this live performance that we released about a month ago called Live at Basilica. We actually did this during the pandemic, where we got together at this place called the Hudson Basilica up in upstate New York, and we were able to just get in there and have the entire, like, this beautiful, huge, like, warehouse venue. They have amazing, like, festivals and shows there. So we had it all to ourselves and got to do this thing, and we were there for 2 days and just like recorded a live set.
That's really cool.
So it's kind of cool because that, like, if you watch that, then you kind of see like, oh yeah, this is like the document of that, like where like Joel added a lot. He was not on that first record, so Joel and I both kind of got to like go to town with our parts and kind of expand on the songs, and it's pretty nice. One thing I wanted to add about that, which was something I was thinking about the other day, which is kind of interesting, like, while I wasn't in the band from the beginning, at the time that SOM started, which was at that time Duncan and Will and Justin, like Will and I were simultaneously getting together and had started this sort of electronic kind of ambient, I don't know what you call it, like minimal synth wave. Yeah. And so that happened kind of in parallel with that. And we were both kind of feeling like, yeah, we wanted to try something different. We needed like a refresh, and we were doing this thing. We got together a few times and we wrote, these sort of weird kind of ambient, cinematic, synth wavy kind of things.
Sure.
And we didn't know what was going to happen with it. We didn't know what we were going to do with it. But then, like a year or two later, when I joined SOM, then Will kind of revisited that stuff and started pulling elements from that, taking some of my guitar parts and writing songs around and rewriting some of those songs into SOM songs. So
neat.
It's kind of so I wasn't in the band from the beginning, but actually like the stuff that we were doing back then at that same time found its way into SOM, and there's been at least one song, I think, from each release so far that has been from those sessions, like Youth Decay from the Wake EP, Clocks from the last album, and the first song on the new album are all like pulled from elements from those things. So it's kind of an interesting thing. We've talked about sometimes that we'll ever want to release like some of those songs so people can actually hear how they evolved, because they like are totally different things, and then we kind of made them into songs. So that was like a fun, even more fun experiment to take those things and kind of reimagine them in the band setting. And I think it's some of my favorite stuff that we've done, actually. Yeah. So
we need to do that again, man.
Cool.
In that way, it's like you were always meant to be in a song. You know what I mean?
It seems that way, yeah.
You've had that in your DNA for so long that you've just always kind of had that vibe to you. I love
no
that.
choice.
No choice. Born and bred.
Destined by fate. But yeah, it's something that I really enjoy from you guys' inside, but it's like something I really enjoy from you guys' sound is that it's very obviously it's that massive wall that puts everything together while still being able to be soft. It's like a wave, basically. So it's huge, it's massive, but it does have the ability to be giving. And what really I think adds a layer to that, there's not really a question out of this, is I feel like it's the electronics that get built in, and like some of the synth and some of the stuff that lightly pulls everything together in a way that only seems to add to the big grittiness of the overall guitar tone. And it really works well with the kind of melodic vocals and things like that, to just give the overall sense of something very large and very powerful. And it's, I think it's tied together really well. And to hear that it came from some of these, like, again, you are destined to be here and pulled all these things in together. It's just, this isn't making entirely too much sense is what I'm saying. So, but to talk about some of the music itself, go ahead, please, though, first.
Well, I was just going to say, like, one thing that's also worth noting is the fact that all of us have been playing in bands together in various forms for like, the better part of 2 decades or so.
Yeah.
Like Will and I like went to college together. We like met first day of like freshman year because I was wearing like a Clutch t-shirt. He was wearing a Sepultura t-shirt, and we just spotted each other like in the hallway. Like, we're gonna just become best friends. Awesome. And then here we are, like, and so all of this has come out of like not just just us forming this band, but like everything that's come before it, like our previous bands. We all always played, you know, all four of us had played with each other in multiple projects before this. So it's like,
Really
this
cool.
has kind of been a journey. And I think we finally, in a lot of ways, have found our like comfort zones with each other. And like this has been you know, we finally sort of discovered what our strengths are. And I think this album especially has been a good, the best like example of that, because I think everyone brought their best stuff to the table, and I think we like all like kind of realized like, oh, this is like, you know I did, like I was like, it's taken me years to figure this out, and sometimes I listen to stuff that I did when I was younger and it's like, oh man, like why didn't I do this? Why was I trying so hard? Why did I need to like do this thing? Now it's like, oh, you know, like the wisdom that you have with experience and age or whatever, you know, you kind of realize like, oh yeah, this is like the best thing that I can bring to this part, to this song, whatever. And I think that has happened collectively with all of us, and it's kind of a nice thing, and it makes the process of writing and everything really fun, and also surprising when you hear your bandmates come up with like these badass parts, and you're like, oh shit, all right, I gotta bring it even harder for this one, you know, or whatever. Like
Inspiring.
It creates a fun dynamic, and it brings out the best in each other, actually. So that's been something really nice.
Some of the favorite part of music making, I think, for anybody is that when you really rely on your team and the egos are out the door, and then like you're struggling might be too strong of a word, but everyone's like, all right, we got that done. Now what do we chop into? And someone just busts something out, comes with a riff, comes with a vocal note, one note at a time, even, that really pulls you. That's the funnest part of making music, man. It's when you get inspired by your team around you. It's magic, dude. So I do want to talk about the songs themselves that are out, at least for now, and then I get you some of your thoughts for all the listeners going forward as well, because it's kind of out.
I just say that I love your cover of Personal Jesus.
Thank you.
It's so relaxing. I didn't think that song could be that relaxing. Oh my god, dude! I woke up this morning and I was like, you know, I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna just dive in and listen to some stuff, drink my coffee. And that got me so relaxed. I almost wanted to go back to sleep. I was like, awesome. So fun. Like, just so hats off for that.
Thank you. Yeah, those Depeche Mode covers were, super fun. Opened up my mind in ways that I did not expect. It was like such a good experience for us.
I love that. Yeah. Sorry, Dusty. What were you gonna say?
No, not at all. That's really smart move. I too love when someone can take songs. There's like two rules for covers. Either make them yours and make the people go, oh shit, that's that song and it sounds like SOM, or how the hell did they nail that exactly? Like, he sounds like him, he sounds like this. Like, so there's like two routes to go, and hats off. Yeah, you guys did fantastic with taking that and making it yours, which is so difficult to do. But yeah, we'll get into some of the music here so we can kind of give people a taste of what to look forward to. First of all, anybody that's out there, you can find the first three songs together in one single. It's called Chemicals, but it has Chemicals, Nightmare, and Give Blood, which starts off pretty strong, or to say, which, and again, for you guys, it brings that doom right off the top, get you something to pop with. We kind of already have dug into, you know, where you were at when you were making this and how you feel like you got creatively, but the music itself, basically, like I said, being brighter, happier, whatever you want to call it, it just gives a bigger sense of inspiration to what you have. I, for one, really love like the clean, refined tone to almost get like inside baseball on what the actual music is here. It's really refined, really clean, really well recorded, crisp, to the point, which also then allows for those big swells to make a lot of noise. Basically, what I'm asking is, on these first three songs, everybody can already have a chance to it. Off of the new record that's coming out, what are some of your guys' favorite songs off of that? Or do you have like a one or two where like, this is my favorite song on the album?
You want to go first, Mike?
Oh, you go for it.
Chemicals is my favorite. That's the one that I feel like is the most unexpected. I like that long section in the middle, like when, you know, so we had that song kind of structured out, and then Justin came in when he redid the drums, and he just started throwing those tom things in the verses and then the build, and it was like, oh shit, this song just got elevated to something very unexpected. And then I forget if Joel had his bridge part already, but then he started doing this like crawly guitar part, and then Mike added that, like, in the way the guitars sing back and forth, it went from being like I guess this one will make the record, it's like, it's cool, it's a little different, to being like, oh, this is like, to what Mike's point was earlier, it's just like us just kind of playing off each other and getting excited in a way that just feels like bigger than all of us. You know what I mean? So that was a really a gem for me.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really cool, man. What about you, Mike?
Well, that one's up there for me too. I want to talk about a song that's not out yet, so I won't let the first song, Don't Look Back, might be overall my favorite. It's just I feel like it kind of brings a little bit of everything that we do into it. But
yeah, and if you want to, you certainly can.
I think Nightmares is kind of the most interesting song to talk about, because I feel like that one feels like more of a swing for us, a little bit more of a departure. We did something kind of different. That was also came out of I guess Joel coming up with this really gnarly sort of riff. I think that's how the song started, if I'm not mistaken. And at first it kind of it was, to me, it was the odd song out on the album. I was this doesn't this. I love this riff, I love these parts, but I don't really know how it fits into the whole thing. That's how it started. And then once vocals started coming in, and Joel, I wrote my arpeggio parts over most of the song, and whatever. Then it all started to come together and started sounding I guess us, but also something kind of different, and not I don't know. There's been a lot of I feel like there's a lot of alchemy on this record. Whereas songs started one thing, and then once we all started kind of adding our special sauce and whatever, then the song, where that song started and where it ended was one of the biggest surprises. It's oh wow, okay, I didn't see that coming, and I didn't even once it was fully realized, it was oh yeah, this is awesome, and feels even something kind of new and different for us. It's one of the heaviest things we've done. It's kind of, but it's also still super melodic, and a lot of cool guitar stuff. My fingers hurt every time I play it still. I'm still I'm looking forward to playing that one the most, but I'm also oh shit, I really have to practice the fuck out of this before we get on the road. So that's the fun
challenge
part.
to have.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. So
yeah, for me, Chemicals, when I heard it off the top, it slapped me right in the face, but I think for the same reasons that it was already brought up by you, Will. But yeah, Lucian, I guess, do you have anything that you wanted? When I cut you off, did I cut you off?
No, I was just going to say, I think the word alchemy is appropriate. Just when I listen to you guys' stuff in general, I get this sense of something is never going to be what it is at the end of it, but B, you all have a specialty, it seems. Each one of you guys brings something to the table, and it doesn't ever feel, when I listen to your music, it doesn't ever feel like someone's just playing. You know what I mean? We all have those friends where they're in a band and they're yeah, I play bass, or I play guitar, or I do but they don't really have an interest in improving, or they don't want to learn another skill on top of it. They're just I'm just here to play the drums, or I'm just here, to play the synth, and that's all I do. And everyone else kind of has that need to elevate. It feels like every time I listen to one of your songs, it constantly elevates. There's no reprieve. There's no stop. It's not to say the intensity ramps up in every single song in that way, but it feels like, to harken back to what Mike was saying, the alchemy is really a good word for it, because you start somewhere and you have no idea where you're going to end up. And I think that speaks to what you guys are doing, but it also speaks to the consumer, because I will listen to one of your songs and within the first 45 seconds go, okay, I can kind of tell where this is going to go. And every single time it throws me for a loop. And I'm
you're wrong.
Never fucking mind. I guess I had no idea where this was going.
That's awesome.
And I said this in another episode we just did the other week, but when I listen to a song and I have to look down and make sure it's still the same song, it's probably a good thing. Feeling, because it's got me thinking, so many times, even as musicians, we put on music and then we just kind of go on autopilot. You're just in the background. It's the soundtrack to what you're doing that day. But very rarely do I listen to music and I have to go, wait, that's still this? Holy shit, what have they done here? So I really got to tip my hat to you guys. You really orchestrated this whole feel with especially this newer music, where you're hitting people with a left and you're hitting them with a right, and they're never seeing it coming. And I felt pretty shocked listening to these new songs. just based off that.
I want to add to that.
Yeah.
Just to say, like, I'm just thinking, like, the, as part of the writing process, something that I've kind of grown with is, like, sometimes we're working on these songs and there's a part that, one of the other guys will do. And my first impression of it is like, oh, I don't like that. Like, that doesn't actually sound like what I thought the song was going to be. And it's not what I kind of wanted the song to be or what I was envisioning it. And like the old me maybe would have opened my big fat mouth and like said something, be like, dude, like, I don't know about that part. Can you like try something else there? Like, I'm not really feeling it, which is like, I don't know. It's just dumb. So like this time I feel like one of my personal journeys as a musician and probably as a person has been like, rather than like say that, why don't I just try first to see if I can do something with that, and maybe the thing that I don't like about that is something that I can actually fix with something that I'm doing to make it like more like what I imagined. And
you're speaking to my soul right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback on that, I would say part of the writing process for me, for sure, and how we kind of like layer stuff is rather than trying to up my game, I'm trying to just like lay back and give these other guys space to do cool shit. If I have a cool idea that I think is really cool, I'll throw it on there. But rather than like, oh, dude, I'm going to fucking blow them away with this idea, I'm just like, I'm just going to play the root note here and see what they do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then like, oh, what if it goes here next?
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to be unexpected, but I'm like, just what happens?
Well,
just lay back and see and ride that note for a minute. And then Mike or Joel comes up with something like, yep, that's exactly what needed to happen there.
Yeah, it's very clear that you guys have
the result's always better as a result of that. Yeah,
you guys have a very good sense of chemistry, and you can just tell in the music and in talking with you guys, it really shows. It shows that this isn't just a slap together project, that this is something where you guys are fully going wholehearted into this and putting your whole self into it. Like I can tell that when I listen to the music that you guys have known each other forever, you guys have been around each other, spent plenty of time. I think when bands have that sense of chemistry, not only is that great for live performance, because, it just stage presence and everything aside, but just the music itself, to have that ability to sit back, let someone else shine, and support them with what you're doing. I feel like that can be such a rare thing in music, because there are so many people
in life
that are trying to, that are trying to be like, well, I'm going to wire you with the solo. Listen, right, George, that's a great solo, but it has nothing to do with the song we're playing.
And George, whoever, I don't know who George is, but
I know George. Solo.
Fucking George.
He needs to calm down.
But I do love to hear the the very like Taoist wu-wei action through non-action that you guys have a push and pull in, and that's that speaks to, like I said, you're speaking to my soul, because that's the kind of shit that as I was younger, I would have done the same thing and be like, dude, I don't know. This is more, because we play like in a thrash metal band, and be like, this is like fucking lame, way soft. No, but instead, why don't we let that play out and see if I change the way that makes it feel better? And then if it ends up adding to the overall process, then I get what I want anyways. But It's not always about what you want. It seems that you guys are obviously a great team. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said, we have hit about 30. I'd sit here all fucking day with you guys. Like we do this all day, but we don't want to take up time, and you guys have lots of these to get to. I guess, first of all, let me say again, hats off, because having to hear that you've re-recorded things and had to go all the way back to the beginning it is like, it makes you want to pull your hair out, but I'm sure that, like you said, it was the right thing. So for all of you,
this streak of gray right here is from
recording. That's
I felt its turn that day.
That right there.
But March 14th, the album Let the Light In is coming out for these guys. It's 8-track album. It looks like it's very full. Most songs give you exactly what they want out of it. I'll let both of you have a chance to help wrap this out. Is there anything that you really want any listener to know? Because we're on everywhere on YouTube video, all of it. Anybody that's at any spot to go find things, or something you want them to know about the album or what you guys have going forward. Any final notes?
We got a tour coming up. You can check it out. It's som.band. The new album's out.
Might be already done by the time you hear this.
Oh yeah, it might be done.
Yeah, to say with the embargoes, but that's okay. We'll catch them again.
Yeah. Well, if you missed us, sorry.
Yeah. You missed out. Keep your eye to the keep your ears to the ground.
We have 2 other records that other people don't seem to be aware of yet. Check those out too. We have some EPs that are very cool. We try to take some swings on the EPs that are kind of a little bit different than the records. And yeah, it's been awesome talking to you guys. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to piggyback, Mike? No. Yeah, just, it sounds silly, but like all this stuff, when people just reach out and say hi, whether it's on social media or email or, YouTube comments, like that stuff is, really helps keep the wind in our sails. So if you hear something, you like what you're hearing, like say hi. We love to talk to everybody. And we, that sort of connection and that sort of feeling of community is something that I think is really huge and valuable and really appreciated. So yeah, just want to say thank you for that, and don't hesitate to reach out if our music affects you in a certain way, good or bad, whatever. Let us know.
I'm gonna be reaching out on YouTube. I'm gonna be all over paragraph. Like, I really love the chord progression of this. Just give me add that to that guy.
No, but
Why not give him my phone number?
Lucian, honestly, like doing stuff like this, it's cool to know that how many cool people are listening to the music we make. It makes it all kind of not all worth it. That's a little bit sappy, but it's just fucking cool to know that there are people we know that are cool that we can talk to and be like, oh, they like what we're doing. It's a good feeling.
Dude, we love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to hear more of it. Honestly, like I don't really say that a lot. I probably should. Like, doing a show like this, I should probably say that more and be a little bit more supportive to the acts we have coming on. Now, note to self, No, I'm really, really excited for this one. I'm kind of a newer SOM fan, so I'm really kind of just diving in headfirst into everything you guys have done, which I think is kind of the appropriate way to do it, to be honest, because of how your music floats and how it kind of carries. And it's got this whole ethereal quality to it where I don't think a lot of bands do that anymore. So I don't know. I can't say enough good stuff about you guys. I really love what you're doing. I really wish you luck with everything you guys have in the future, but thank you guys again for the time. I'd love to maybe schedule something where we could get a little bit more time in the future. So maybe we'll
sure.
keep in touch down the road and after your tour, see if something else lines up.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
Cool.
Listen, man. Well, thank you everybody for listening again, please, because this is coming out the week that they're there. So the wait is nigh. You have just a little bit of time left before Let the Light In is out on pretty much, it looks like everything. You can, if you are hearing it early, you can pre-save it now everywhere you go. And again, guys, I could tell you the same thing for our podcast as I could tell you for their band. Just click the little like button, click the little share button. That's all you have to do to give someone free support. And so if you could go and love all of their things for us, I'd appreciate it. But other than that, like I said, both Mike, Will, thank you for giving us your time this morning. Have a great time on tour. Hope everything goes smooth, as you know it will. I'm not jinxing it. And thank you, Lucian, for hanging out with me this morning. You guys have a great rest of your day. We're at this point now with this recording, we're most of the way in through the season. I think I'm doing quick mental math, but we'll have more episodes for you next Wednesday. Thank you. We love you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Lucian. Really appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
You too.
Bye.